and maybe places where they were together, where they had all their connections and associations and things like that. Maybe that's where they return to, or maybe that's where they, if it's a school, they would return to it, I guess. If it's a hospital, they're probably just staying there. If it's a cemetery, they were brought there. But either way, they're with others that are in the same predicament, right? So maybe that's the thing.
The interesting thing about, we're a little off topic here, but the interesting thing about ghosts in hospitals and schools is, well, hospitals anyways, you'd think it was patients, but chances are that if you have a haunting in a hospital, it's the staff.
Where did you get that from? Just out of curiosity. Is that
most ghost stories you hear about is haunted staff.
Really?
Yeah. Patients don't seem to hang around hospitals. They move on. But the staff...
The staff enjoyed it so much, maybe they're still doing it.
Or they have the Florence... It's called the Florence Nightingale ghost. Or the ghost that usually comforts people. We've got one right here in VGH, at the burn unit. There's a phantom nurse.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's one of them. The most common ghosts in hospitals is a nurse. And the most common ghosts in schools are teachers.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. It's, I mean, occasionally you will get a patient, occasionally you will get a child. The hotels seem to be the only place where people go to that seem to be haunted by its clientele. And not the staff.
That's really interesting.
So hotels. So yeah, that's an interesting point, because I'd never thought about it. But yeah, it's not patients, believe it or not. It's the actual staff. The staff are what haunt. And I shouldn't say there are no ghosts, and then certainly there are ghosts in hospitals. But most ghost stories are about staff.
Well, you'll have to tell me the story sometime about the burn unit nurse. I find that interesting.
She goes around and tells people to relax. It's going to be okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of her name. The G. Matheson Pavilion also, if I have to jump up again, it's because my cat is...
out of the bag.
I'm going to try and get her to come over here. I'm just really worried because if she runs out from where she's at, she's kind of wrapped underneath the camera here. And she's just not moving. Come on, there you go. Get out of there. And sorry, keep talking to them guys, Marty, because I'm trying to get the cats out. And
I think of all the ghost stuff, really, I love the stories. I mean, I love hearing the stories about people's experiences with ghosts. I think that's just about as fascinating as actually looking for them. I just find it really, really exciting to hear true stories about ghosts. The things that people have experienced. I find that really, really interesting.
Well, ghost stories, I think, are
they're neat.
That's the meat of things.
Yeah.
And I wish I could say that every ghost hunt that we've been on was something like that happening. And unfortunately, it gets right back to the full circle thing, is that they don't happen. We may know all the stories, but we don't see all the ghosts that are associated with these stories.
Yeah.
I mean, but the stories are fun, and the stories are usually a little bit of truth, or what has been perceived as truth.
Slightly embellished.
Slightly embellished. A little bit of urban legend, maybe a lot. And it's kind of like if Marlena was sitting at the table, and she is, and then we had another member of our group here, and another member of that group here, and I whispered in Marlena's ear, the Pope's got a wart on his bum. And Marlena whispered to this person's ear something, and they whispered the same thing, and they whispered the same thing. Eventually it might come back to me, and it's the rope has got, on the pole has been turned or something. It's not anything like I said it was to start it with, because everybody embellished it or changed it or heard it differently.
Yeah.
And so the ghost story, and it doesn't matter what country you're from, whether you're from good old Canada or the United States or Great Britain, the ghost story starts, and every time it's told, of course, it's added to and played with and changed a bit.
Right, so we'd never really know for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there is a ghost story, and there is one about the hospital, and she comforts people. That's the main theme of the story.
She comes in the room and they see a nurse, and the nurse talks to them.
They're asleep, and then she wakes them up.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, they're asleep. She wakes them up, and this is in the old burn unit, which is now the students' residence. She may ask them if they want a drink of water, and they may say yes, and she never comes back. And that's how the story ends, is that they ask her for a drink and she didn't come back, so they ring for the nurse, and they say, well, the other nurse was going to get me water. And most hospitals, it's always a graveyard shift.
Yeah.
Most hospitals, even your huge downtown city hospitals, the emergency might be full of nurses, but on each ward there's usually only 2 or 3, because everybody's asleep.
Yeah.
And the nurses do their rounds at a given time, usually on the hour. So this visitation is always when the nurses aren't doing their rounds. So, and she comes in and asks them if they want water, and they usually say yes. And then they lay there waiting for her to come back, and they're awake when the nurse comes in, and they say, where's the other nurse? And she'll say, well, there's just me and, you know, this person on, and they know that nobody's been around the wards.
Yeah.
And I know some scary stories about VGH too, you know.
Yeah, tell me just one.
Okay, there was a security guard at VGH,
Yeah.
who was also in the burn unit, which is now closed. It was a burn unit to start with, and it was changed into the students' residence, and now it's 6 floors of just empty nothingness.
Oh, okay.
It's completely locked up, but the guards have to go through it there every night to excuse me, the guards go through there every night to turn off the lights, right? Because they're on a clock, yeah. And this one guard was up on the last floor. He had to go up to the roof to take the flag down. And I've been in this hospital when it's been very, very dark, and you're just looking with a flashlight. It's pitch black, and then you go into this little room at the top, and it's about the size of your average washroom, toilet area, very narrow little room with a ladder.
Yeah.
And it goes up to the roof where you take down the provincial flag. And you're all in pitch black. Okay? This guy went up to the roof, came down. He started doing a door check down one side of the hallway, end of the hallway, came back, door check, door check, door check, door check, door check, all the way down to make sure that all the doors were locked, because that's a security lockup. And he got to the end of the hallway to open the door to go out, and he heard the sounds of wheels. Really, really fast wheels, like furiously coming down the hallway as if somebody was running with a gurney.
Wow.
Like a really fast sound of wheels. And he looked down the hallway, and what he saw was a light that was quite small to start with, or what he felt was maybe about 2 feet high, down the end of a hallway. So you know it's going to look like maybe a 1/4 inch from where his perspective is, getting bigger and bigger and bigger and brighter, to the fact that the ceiling was illuminated and the walls on either side of the hallway were illuminated and the floor was bright. It was all reflecting this light. He saw it very clearly. And you could hear the wheels going like the gurney is like somebody's running like a mad person with a gurney. And then something came out of the light, and its hair was like bright orange, like as if it was on fire. And he said the face was kind of like the Joker from Batman.
Whoa!
And it was pushing something on a gurney that sat up and looked exactly like the thing that was pushing it.
Oh my goodness!
And it kept running and got faster and faster and faster, and apparently ran right through the security guard. He quit. He got out of there. He opened the door and he was dropping his keys, and he actually quit. I knew this guy. He quit right there and then.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah. And I don't know what he saw that would look like the Joker from Batman, with the bright hair and the green mouth and the weird eyes and stuff.
Oh my goodness!
And whatever was on the gurney looked exactly like, sat up and looked exactly like the person pushing it. So it was like 2 Jokers. And I don't know what that was, because it's not your typical ghost story. I wouldn't want to say it was demonic, but it certainly wasn't your typical ghost